Hey guys, this is Matt with Gluzo Reviews, and I wanted to give my thoughts on the new movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is a brand new film from Quentin Tarantino, and I wasn't even going to see it, but I have the AMC A-list, and I had some time to kill, so I figured why not give it a chance. The reason why I didn't really want to see it is because I'm not really a fan of Quentin Tarantino. Honestly, I really don't like his movies most of the time. His style is really just not my cup of tea. His movies just hardly ever click with me. Pulp Fiction is his best movie in my opinion. It's the only one he's directed that I actually really like. And I haven't even seen Pulp Fiction in years, so if I were to watch it now, maybe my opinion might change. But I remember liking it. I do own it. I just haven't watched it in a long time. Kill Bill, I think, is very overrated. I've never been a fan of Kill Bill. I saw it in the theater. I didn't see part 2 because I didn't really care for part 1. Death Proof, other than Kurt Russell, is the star. I love Kurt Russell. It just didn't really do anything for me. The finale was alright with some of the car stunts. Inglourious Basterds was a chore to sit through. I saw that in the theater. Django Unchained, I saw once or twice, and it was okay, but I've never felt compelled to watch it again. And it was too long. Inglourious Basterds was too long. And this movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, suffers the same fate. It is too long. And most of his movies have that problem. Over length. This movie is almost 3 hours long, and it did not need to be, in my opinion. I don't mind a long movie. I saw Avengers Endgame 3 times in the theater. That's 3 hours. The movie Heat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. That's 3 hours. That's one of my favorite movies. And there are others. I saw Lord of the Rings in the theater. There are many others. Length in itself is not a problem. Or some movies start off slow and then the final hour of the movie is riveting or something like that. This movie was just all over the place, and it just did not need to be nearly 3 hours long. So that all being said, that's my thoughts on Quentin Tarantino and his movies. He's just not really my style. I do really enjoy the movie True Romance, which he wrote, but he didn't direct. Tony Scott directed that. I think Tony Scott is a way better director than Quentin Tarantino. Even if I'm the only one, so be it. So True Romance, as a writer, I enjoy that movie a lot. Pulp Fiction is his best movie as a director. The other films he's directed that I've seen, I don't really care for. Kill Bill, Inglourious Basterds, Django Unchained, Death Proof, Reservoir Dogs. I haven't seen that in a long time. Maybe I need to see that again. So that all being said, I kept seeing the trailers for this Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and pretty much every movie I've seen this summer, which is a lot, they've had this same trailer, and I've just been so sick of this trailer because I know I don't really care for Quentin Tarantino. But anyway, long story short, I decided to just give this movie a chance because, like I said, I have the AMC A-list. I had time to kill, which it's nearly 3 hours long, so good thing I had the day off. I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. All that being said, I went into it with an open mind, as I try to do with most movies. I did not hate it. I liked it better than Django Unchained, better than Inglourious Basterds, but it's not something I'd ever watch again. It was very, very long, too long. I didn't get much out of the story. It seemed like there wasn't much happening at times, which again, the story needed to be refined. shortened. You could have taken almost an hour out of this movie and you wouldn't be missing anything. You could come to the same resolution and the same story and just take out 45 minutes to an hour of this movie. So it's too long. The story was really just there. It was kind of just meandering along, in my opinion. Not really. Some people online have said boring. I wouldn't say I was bored with it. It's just I was waiting to see, okay, where is this going to go? Where's this plot thread going to go? And some of it just doesn't really go anywhere or add up to anything. So it's not one of those movies where it has a slow build and then at the end it all makes sense. It all has a build up. Not really. And there were long scenes of dialogue. Basically a lot of Tarantino's regular stuff, which, like I said, I'm not really a fan of him. So I guess I can't complain about it being a Tarantino movie when I knew he was the director of it. But it has those typical long dialogue scenes, which in Pulp Fiction worked and sometimes can work. Here it just seems like, and in his other movies I mentioned, to me anyway, he just seems like very pretentious, very much like he has an ego and he just wants to show that he can write these monologues and these dialogue scenes, and he is good at that. He can write a good monologue and good dialogue, but this movie, some of those long speeches, I just felt it went on too long. Like I said, Pulp Fiction, it kind of worked. It did work. But I feel like ever since then, he's been trying to do that again, and it just hasn't clicked with me personally. Everything I'm saying is just my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right, it's just my opinion. So it was just too long. The story isn't that captivating to me, even though it's about Hollywood and movies, and it has a lot of his usual things that he throws in there. It's not too heavy on like the graphic violence and stuff. Near the end there's some, but he kind of tones down some of the explicit content a bit, which I appreciated because he also does go overboard with that too in a lot of his movies. There still are some bizarre things that he does, how he films certain shots that I'm not crazy about. But that's just his style. I can't fault the movie made by him for having his style. I just thought maybe with this as the backdrop, this setting, this environment, that maybe it would be more tolerable. It's not in a World War II movie like Inglourious Basterds. It's not a Western. But in the end, all of his normal traits still were in there. And I was kind of going with the movie for a while, but it's too long. So there was a period when I just was starting to not get much out of it. So this review is just kind of a meh review because I know if you like Tarantino and movies like this, you probably will like it a lot more than me. Me not being a fan of him, there's only such a limit, I think, to me liking the film. Even though I do like it better than a lot of his other recent stuff. So if that's any praise at all, I don't hate the movie. It was good to see it once, and it's not as bad as other films of his that I haven't cared for. But would I ever watch it again? Probably not. Or at least I would fast forward to parts that I like. Would I recommend the movie? If you like Tarantino, it's a total Tarantino movie. If you don't like him, you're going to get more of the same, like I did. But that's a lot of more so negative comments. What I did like about the movie, the cast does a great job. Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, they're the two main characters. Uh, DiCaprio's an actor, Brad Pitt's a stunt double. I don't normally care for either of those two actors necessarily. They're okay in like sporadic films, but they're not actors that I normally follow. That being said, they both did fine. They were no better or worse than any other movie they've been in. I don't think either of them it's their best work, but I think that they're no better or worse than any other movie. Uh, Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate, she did a great job and she's a good actress. I'm enjoying watching her performances throughout the past few years. Then there's a lot of other familiar faces in there. You got Kurt Russell, who also narrates certain parts of the movie. I wish he had more screen time. Same for Al Pacino. I mean, the scene in the trailer with him is pretty much his only scene. But you got them in there. There's a lot of other familiar faces, supporting actors, character actors that Tarantino has used before. And I don't have a problem with any of them. I don't have a problem with the cast. The cast was fine. The 1960s production design was good. The costumes, the sets, the way Hollywood was at that time, the way they are on the movie sets and everything, all of that was fine. It's a well-made movie. The cinematography is great. Those are never Tarantino problems. His cinematography, costume design, depiction of the right time period, cast, that's never really his problem. His problem is length. He needs a better editor or more editors, and all of his movies need to be trimmed severely, including this one. If this movie was only 2 hours or a little less than 2 hours, I probably would say it's a pretty good movie, but it's just too long. It became a beatdown. It beat me into submission. It's not one of those movies that's long, but it starts slow and then gets better and builds, and it's, I mean, Blade Runner 2049, that's another recent movie that was almost 3 hours. That movie gripped me from beginning to end. Had its slow moments, had a great build-up. I was invested in the characters, in the plot. This one, I was not really invested in it. It just seems like a random assortment of scenes and little mini adventures of the two characters who are not even on screen a lot together, DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. They're separate for a lot more of the movie than it made it seem like in the previews. But the cinematography, the production design, the cast, and there are some sporadic scenes I like that did make me chuckle or that did keep me interested. The finale is actually pretty surprising and pretty nice. I really liked the final set piece in there. And there are random scenes throughout that I did enjoy, but it did not need to be almost 3 hours long. It just did not need to be. And then there are certain actors that I wish had more screen time, like Kurt Russell and Al Pacino and so on. But I'm not really a Tarantino fan. This movie didn't really do much to change my mind, but it is better than some of his last few movies. And it does have its strengths like the cast, the cinematography, the production design, and some humorous or fun moments. And it wasn't as graphic as some of his other films can get. But it still just suffers from too many of his traits that are turn-offs to me. It has Tarantino's style all over it, as it should. He directed it. If you like him, you like his style, you'll probably like the movie. For me, it's just okay. I don't hate it. It's not one of my worst of the year or anything. But sitting in the theater, it was a bit of a beatdown at times, and it was just too long. The length is the biggest flaw. The story, like I said, and characters, and that all could have been better. There isn't much emotion to it either, which again, that's just Tarantino. His movies feel disconnected to me personally. So I can't fault it for that. I should have known it would be that way. But it wouldn't even matter if the movie was much shorter. It would at least have been a much more pleasant film and a fun film. So as it is, it's just okay. Good cinematography, good costume design, good cast. Maybe worth watching at least once. And if you're a fan of Quentin Tarantino, you will probably enjoy it much more than I did. So that's my thoughts on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you're a Tarantino fan, check it out. If you're not, maybe stream it on Netflix or something if you're not sure. So anyway, stay tuned for the next review. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Later.